Campbell Management Consulting. We're here every Monday evening from 7 to 8 on News Talk Radio, KFNX 1100. If you'd like to join the show, it's 602-277-5369, or toll free. It's 1-866-536-1100. Okay, Sahar, we were talking about leadership, and you were explaining the autocratic style in the matures.
Exactly. And now the baby boomers had respect for power and accomplishment, and they started turning the theory X to theory Y, where they welcomed, opinions for decision making, and they were more relaxed about managing their employees. For Generation X, the rules were very flexible. Basically, the rules were meant to be broken. As long as they did their work properly, the rules were second to come in command than doing a good job.
Okay.
For Generation Y, they value autonomy. They are restless, and they redefine the rules.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm having a hard time putting my hands around they value autonomy, because I just don't see that from the Generation Y folks.
Actually, they do, because they are very dedicated to the projects that they do.
Okay.
And when they have a team, they work very well in teams, and they kind of divide the job between each other to, at the end, be one unit and produce the exact end result that is needed. Though they don't have to work from 9 to 5, they don't have, actually in their mind, and they don't follow the rules as we do or as we are used to do. But they get very good results at the end.
Yeah, see, because I don't see them as being autonomous because of technology and stuff. I see them being more technologically social.
Yeah, but remember, the technology is a part of them, and they are part of technology. They consider technology as just an extension of themselves.
Okay.
They don't see it as a tool. They see it as part of them, and that's why, for instance, if you call a Gen Y and leave a voicemail, you might not hear from them. But if you text them, you will get an answer within a second.
Yeah.
So it's an extension of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that I can see. Quite frankly, I can see a dark side if they start to equate themselves with technology. I can see them losing themselves, because at the pace that technology changes, I can see them losing their core, if you know what I mean.
No, I understand what you mean, and you know what, they, as coming to a face-to-face interactions, they don't have the same skills as the generations that came before.
And that's interesting, because that's kind of where I was going with this conversation.
I kind of felt it.
Just because that's kind of where I'm seeing the problem with and particularly in project management, is because they're so technologically concentric that they're losing their core, the core pieces of face-to-face interaction. They're relying on technology to do that for them, and I think that's having, what everybody calls unintended consequences now.
But also remember that they have friends all over the world, and they care about their friends.
Sure.
And they have very good friendship ethics or principles. So we need to remember that as well, because I know that a lot of people, and I'm gonna, in the discussion we're gonna discuss the challenges and all that of the generations, but we need to remember that also bringing technology and bringing social media to our lives and an easier way to do things can also facilitate our life. And because we are not used, remember, change is always difficult. And we always resist change, and they are changing the whole face of technology and of doing things.
Right.
So I guess my point is we need to give them a chance.
I haven't thrown them in the dumpster yet.
I hope not.
No, when you were talking about it, I was just kind of sitting here scratching my head, thinking that may be part of the issue. So let's we haven't really touched on family. Let's touch two-tongue family
Sure.
matures in the baby boomers?
This is important. You know, the matures or the traditionalists,
Right.
they believed in separating work and family.
Right.
Their family was very traditional, you know, and they mostly worked for one employer most of their life. And they believed in putting away money because they were cautious with money.
Right.
Baby boom.
I mean, they came from
The Great Depression.
It was all taken away from them. So.
Exactly. Which makes sense, and that's why it's very important to understand the eras where, in which every single generation lived, so we know where they're coming from.
Right.
To understand. And the baby boomers, for them, work came first, family came second, and that's why the rate of divorce went a lot higher during the baby boomers. You know, the families basically disintegrated, and they are the people that started really the credit thing, where they buy now because they really cared about the status, because they worked hard, so they played hard, so they wanted to buy everything, but they believed in paying later.
Right.
You know, now Generation X are the kids of the baby boomers, and we call them also the latchkey kids.
Yeah, boy, are we messed up.
Tell me about it.
Boy, are we messed up.
You know,
I mean, I need to blame somebody for this, damn it.
You know what? They grew. Some of the Generation X grew up with two-income families, which was almost unheard of before, because the women were entering in big numbers at the workplace, and because both parents really worked or got a divorce at some point, these kids basically grew by themselves, and that's why.
You've got to remember, Sahar, that right between the baby boomers and right toward the end of the baby boomers and the Generation X is when TV really kicked in, and advertising in Madison Avenue started selling everybody on what they should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? And that's why they came the me generation.
Right.
You know, that's why they came. You know what? They grew up by themselves, so they had to take care of themselves.
Right.
You know, and then came the Generation Y, where they are, and this is what we were talking before, they're blending their personal life with their work life.
Right.
You know, they are very close to their families, and you will hear a lot of Generation Y, for instance, females that will tell you, my mom is my best friend.
Yeah, and that, just that term kind of disturbs me. Because moms aren't best friends, moms are moms.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But, so, anyway, there's a little side note there. Go on.
And you know, and they believe in friendships, like I said before, even if it's a virtual friendship.
Right.
You know, so they remember, for them, work is not from 9 to 5. They are multitaskers. They have a lot of energy. They stay connected 24/7. So if someone, it's a dream assistant. You know, if someone is working with someone or on a project and you need something at 11 o'clock, if you text them, you will get an answer within seconds.
Yeah, that's always amazed me. How come they have telephones and they'll answer you on a text, but they won't call you?
No, and if you leave a voicemail, they won't hear it.
Yeah, and forgive me here because I'm one of the older ones on your chart here, but it perplexes me why they would readily text you as opposed to punching in the numbers and calling you.
Because they can express themselves better.
Really?
You know, because remember, they are used to like instant messages. They're used to Facebook, where they write what they feel.
Or one could make the argument that they're risk averse and they're playing it safe by texting as opposed to having a conversation.
I'm not sure about that, because they can have a full conversation, and I have seen it, a full conversation by SMS and texting.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But that's just like email. It's a far safer mode of communication than actually talking to somebody on the telephone or face-to-face.
That's true too. That's true too, because remember, Generation X deals a lot with emails, because remember, the internet started in Generation X era, and they're very comfortable with PDAs and Blackberries and smartphones.
Right.
You know, so actually the technology, we see it more between Generation X and Generation Y.
Right. You know, I'm just wondering if the Generation Y, and Lord only knows what comes after that, whether it be Generation Z or whatever. But I'm just wondering if, because of the speed of technology, if that's going to pose a bigger problem on that generation than the other generations, as far as attitudes and things, challenges and so on and so forth.
Actually, it might and it might not. We don't know yet, because I always see a silver lining around the clouds. I always see the positive sides. And remember, I'm very involved with social media, so I actually see the positive of it.
Okay. When we come back, more with Sahar about the generation gap in the workplace. I'm Dave Campbell, CEO of Campbell Management Consulting. You're listening to KFNX News Talk Radio 1100.